So every letter of God's word is true. That's the word tittle. A yod is just what in America we call a comma. But that's actually that little tiny mark in Hebrew is a yod. Y-O-D. And so Jesus said, every letter of God's word is true. It's not just every book. It's not just the Bible is true. Jesus said even the letters are true, which is amazing. And every word of God will be preserved. Psalm 119, we're studying Psalms. And verse 89 says that till heaven and earth pass away. And Jesus quoted that and said, forever, O Lord, your word is settled in heaven. Psalm 119 and verse 89. So even the letters, whether it's a yod or a tittle, are preserved to come to pass. See, God, Jeremiah tells us, God knows His word and He's going to accomplish everything that's written in His word. He says He's watching over it to make it come to pass. So every book in God's word is true. Jesus affirmed the whole Bible in John 10:35. And He said, He called the whole Bible the Scriptures. Now, if someone asked me, and people have asked me, how do you know the Bible is true? I answer, always the first time I answer that, I say, I believe the Bible is true because Jesus believed the Bible is true. See, Jesus called the Bible the Scriptures. And Jesus said the Scriptures, and He spoke of the whole Old Testament as a unit. Jesus held the same Old Testament you have with Adam and Eve and Jonah and Elijah and all the prophets. And He said, that's the Scripture. Jesus also affirmed every verb. When Jesus was talking once with the Pharisees and they didn't believe in the resurrection, Jesus said to them that God is the God of the living, not the dead. And then He quotes this when it says in the Old Testament, I am the God of, and then He says, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am. Every verb tense. He said, it doesn't say I was. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say I will be. He said, no. The Bible says, I am the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And so Jesus believed every verb tense. And then finally, Jesus said, I believe every doctrine is true. Jesus spoke of the Garden of Eden in Matthew 19. He said that Abel was murdered, just like it's recorded in Luke 11. Jesus said He believed in Noah and the flood in Matthew 24. Jesus said He even knew Abraham. Remember, He knew him face to face. He says, Abraham rejoiced to meet me. And what did they do when He said that? Picked up their rocks again. Because they caught what He said. Jesus said, I was alive 2,000 years ago, and I knew Abraham face to face. And they went, humans can't live 2,000 years. And they tried to kill Him. But Jesus said every doctrine in the Bible is true. So basically, the book of Psalms is what we're going to study. Okay, I'm going to switch gears. That was just finishing last hour. And let me change to this hour. Now, this is when we're going to go through the whole book of Psalms. So make sure you have your Bible out. And especially, how many of you underline and mark stuff in your Bibles? Most of you? I would encourage you to learn to mark in your Bible for this reason. I brought two of my Bibles. You see that after a while they start falling apart. But that I used from 2009 until 2017. And this is the Bible I used from 2001 to 2009. So 8 years, 8 years. It takes about 8 years to wear one out. And I have studied every page of this book repeatedly. But when I look at something like right there, that page is marked up. When I look at that, I can actually remember when I found it, because it reminds me, because some of it's in red, some of it's in yellow, this is in purple, this is in blue. I remember those were my favorite pens and I wore them out. I ran out of ink and then I had to change to a different color. And also, sometimes I'm outdoors and it starts raining and then it has little rain spots on it. And other times, I've done this too, I'm drinking my coffee and I get coffee on my Bible. And it becomes a record of my journey through the Word of God. So I'm going to walk with you through the Psalms and just show you, after reading the Bible 100 times, what things I've marked in my Bible because they're so important. Now remember, the context of this whole course is that the Bible is about real people that lived in real places, and everything happened somewhere. Think about that. Everything happened somewhere. That's biblical history. And that's what we'll see in the Bible. My prayer for you is that God will stir in you a deep and abiding love for Jesus Christ that can only be satisfied by spending time with Him in His Word. Now let me give you a brief overview of time before we go through the Bible. I look at time kind of like, you guys have shifting cars here or automatic cars? Shifting? I look at time kind of like a shifter. There's neutral, and then there's first gear, second gear, forward, and then you have the lower gears, and basically, time is like this. Christ was what we would call about 0. 1,000 years after Christ, we're 2,000 years after Christ. By the way, we know that history will go at least another 1,000 years. We know there's going to be 3,000 AD. Why? Because the Bible says the millennium lasts how long? 1,000 years. So we know there's 1,000 years of history yet in the future. And if you go back from Christ 1,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,000 years, if you put people's names with it, all of a sudden it makes sense. There's Jesus Christ. 1,000 years after Christ was the time of the Crusaders. If you ever heard of the Crusaders, the descendants of the Crusaders are the people that came to the Philippines, the Spanish. The Spanish were part of the Crusades. And they conquered the Holy Land 1000 AD. And they conquered the Philippines when? 1500? 1600? Anybody know Philippine history? When? 1500. Okay, then 1,000 years after that is today. And then the millennium is going to last just 1,000 years. But this is what's interesting. David was 1,000 years before Christ. Think about that. It was from the time of Jesus through the Crusades was 1,000 years. From the time of Jesus back to the time of David was 1,000 years. But look who's before that. Abraham was 1,000 years before David. Have you ever thought about that? In our Bibles, they're right next to each other. Right? You flip around and Abraham's there, David's there, Jesus is there, Paul's there, and it's like it's all at the same time. But there's vast periods of time. Do you know what 1,000 years before Abraham was? Noah. Do you know who was around 1,000 years before Noah? Adam. The Bible basically presents 6,000 years of history. From the time of Adam, to the time of Noah, to the time of Abraham, to the time of David, to the time of Christ, to the time of the Middle Ages, the Crusades in church history, to today. That's 6,000 years of history, and there's still 1,000 years that are left in the future. How did your Bible get into the shape it's in right now? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered how a book written over 1,600 years of time got to the shape it's in? Well, the Bible you hold, the Old Testament part of it, was arranged by Ezra. And Ezra basically did this. And when did Ezra live? Ezra lived 500 BC. He lived 500 years before Christ, and he's the one that divided the Bible into the three parts Jesus talked about. Jesus talked about in Luke 24, the law, that's what they call the books of history, the prophets, that's the 70 books of prophecy, and the Psalms, which were the wisdom books. Jesus saw the Bible in the same three parts, because the Bible Jesus held is the same Bible that we have, that Ezra put together. Now, how did Ezra put it together? Basically this. We're looking at the book of Psalms right now. Ezra divided the books of the Bible into not only three groupings, but into the order of the books. And so there are 5 major books of history. We call that the Pentateuch. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Then there are 9 books of history written before Israel went into exile. And then there are 3 written, Ezra, Esther, after they got back from the Exodus. That's the same thing that's with the prophets. There are 5 major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Daniel. And then there's 9 pre-exile books, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk. And then 3 post, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. And so that's the layout of the Bible that Ezra did. And you can see in your notes the 5 major, the 9 pre-exilic history books, and then the 3 post-exilic history books. What's interesting is in the wisdom literature, right in the middle, they're all a theology. God talking about suffering, in the Psalms, how to worship God through life, whether you're sad or happy and having good times or bad times. How to live, a big theology of life, kind of like the mile markers of life are in Ecclesiastes, and then a theology of love. By the way, the book of Solomon is about Solomon finding one of his wives. And it's the most beautiful story of Solomon going to a vineyard and working undercover, because they didn't have Facebook back then and no one knew what he looked like. And Solomon went and worked in a vineyard growing grapes with all the workers. And one day he was on one side of the vine working with this pretty young lady on the other side, and he started talking to her, and then he reached through and held her hand, and pretty soon they were madly in love. And then one day he said, "I'm leaving," and she cried. And he said, "But I'll come back for you." And he left, and she cried. And the book's about her crying. And all of a sudden, one day, everyone said, "The person that owns the vineyard is coming, the king of Israel." And they looked in the distance, and here comes King Solomon coming in his chariot, wearing his armor and all of his finery. And all the workers in the vineyard line up like this, and they look down at the ground because he's the owner and the king, and they didn't want to do anything wrong. And he walks along the workers until he gets right in front of her. And he says, "Hello." And she looked at him and went, "You are the king?" And he marries her. I mean, it's one of the nicest love stories in the Bible. And it's a picture of Jesus Christ, who finds us, and we fall in love with him. But he goes to prepare a place for us, and he's coming back to get us as the king. It's the whole story of the Bible that's in the Song of Solomon, which is such an amazing book. But I'm not teaching that, so let's move right on to the books of prophecy, the 5 major, the 9 before the exile, the 3 after the exile, and those together become what we call the Scriptures, which is what Jesus affirmed. But now let's go through some specific Psalms. I just gave you some of my favorites. The Lord reigns. I love that graphic. He's so far above the whole earth. And we need to think about that as we read it. I like this one. The Lord is my shepherd, and he gives me green pastures. Kind of looks like the Philippines, doesn't it? See how green that is? Whenever you see the greenery out there, think of the Lord. I think in pictures, so this is what I think of Psalm 18. Blessed be my rock. You know, that when you were in the desert, and it was all sand, which the wind blew around, the rocks stood up. You know, like they didn't move. And then I like this one. We are the sheep of his pasture. Here's another fun one. I will recount all of your wonderful deeds. And I'm thinking, most of us should have this counter of God has done so many wonderful things in our life that we just can't keep up with it. And most of us don't think like that. We think more of our hard things. But if we, like the psalmist said, recounted it, and here's another one. Let them thank the Lord for steadfast love, for his wondrous works. I mean, everything in weather, everything about the earth. Did you know that we wouldn't even survive if God had designed the Earth's atmosphere and the ionosphere and everything else to protect us from all that bad stuff out there in space? Now here's something interesting I did just for you. I have a program, and I fed into it every word in the book of Psalms. Every word. And this is called the word cloud. The bigger the words, the more times they show up in the book of Psalms. Isn't that interesting? Look what the most repeated words of Psalms are: lip or lips. All the way through the book it says, let my lips declare. In other words, let me be talking about how great you are. And then the wonder, all of your wonderful works, and I wonder, and then it talks about saints and contemplate and command and transgressions. But isn't that interesting? That's a program that maps all the words in a book and makes them bigger the more times they occur. So I did that just for you. Okay, let's go to Psalm 1. And in your Bible, just follow along your Bibles. I'm going to show you some important and vital truths. You all know these things, but I'm going to repeat them. The book of Psalms, I call it the gateway, because look what it says. Blessed is the man. So basically, if the book of Psalms was a doorway, over the door would be blessing. And if you walk through the door, you're entering into the blessings. That's what the book of Psalms is written like. It's written like it's a doorway to blessings. And the first psalm basically summarizes the blessings that the Lord offers. So here is the doorway. And over the doorway is the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is Yah-Shirah. Yah-Shirah. It means, oh, the blessings. Actually, oh, the blessings, if you walk through this doorway. And then it describes, look what it says. Blessed is the man who, and it's negative, walks not. Verse 1, stands not, sits not. You notice the progression? When we have bad friends, first we walk with them. You know, we shouldn't. They're bad, but we walk with them. Then we stand around talking with them. And then we join in and sit down with them. That's the progression here. That the Lord says, the doorway of blessing is when you don't walk with the wrong crowd. When you don't stand around and listen. I used to be a truck driver. You know, driving those big trucks in America. And whenever you drive trucks, you park the truck and you go in to where all the truck drivers are, and you have coffee, and all the truck drivers are staying around. Do you know what the truck drivers talk about? Every truck driver I ever met talks about what woman he found. I mean, they're always prowling around looking for women and trying to get the women to ride in their truck because they had these houses on the back of the truck and they drove around. And they were always looking for women. Horrible things they said. And so I would walk in the break room because I got my break. And guess what I wanted to do? Read my Bible. So I would go over to the corner and they would be over there all talking about the latest girl and what they did. And I would sit there reading my Bible. And before long they'd all stop talking. And they'd come over and they'd say, what are you doing? You're reading the Bible? He's reading the Bible! And they'd all laugh. They'd say, I'm reading the Bible. And before long, when I would come back, I would sit with them, I'd sit off in the corner, and I would listen to their awful stories. When I would walk in from parking my truck, it would get quiet in the coffee room. And they said, we can't talk about what we were talking about because he's in here. And they say, drink your coffee so we can talk about what we talked about. But we won't talk about it in front of you. You know why? They realized that I represented whom? God. And most people are convicted of our sin. And if we will stand for God and not walk with the wicked, not stand around and laugh with them, not sit down and join in what they're doing, the Lord said, we're blessed. And then look at the contrast. But his delight, verse 2, is in the law of the Lord. We want to read the Bible. In his law he meditates. But verse 4, the contrast, the ungodly are not so. And it talks about it. So that's how the Psalms start. The Psalms start very practical with a choice to walk the Lord's way. Now, the second Psalm, by the way, is about the kingdom of the Lord. And notice what it says, lift up. It's very interesting. Verse 6, I've set my king on my holy hill of Zion. That's the Jerusalem is called Zion, and Jesus is going to be the king during the millennium. But look what verse 11 says. This is the one, verse 11 and 12 are the ones I have underlined. Serve the Lord with fear, rejoice with trembling, kiss the Son lest he be angry. Blessed, look at the end of verse 12, those who put their trust in him. Did you know the picture of salvation is when we kiss the Son of God? When we love him and respond. I don't know how they do weddings in the Philippines, but I performed several hundred weddings in America. And when I get all done with the ceremony, always the line I say is, you may kiss your bride. And for the first time, the husband turns and kisses his bride. That's the picture here. That we are engaged to Jesus Christ, and that salvation is when we begin that relationship and we kiss the Son, and we're blessed. The third psalm, by the way, is the first psalm called the Psalm. Do you have in your Bible something written before it says Psalm 3? Is there a little writing in your Bible? Look down. Is there something ahead of Psalm 3? You have a superscript? You have it. Sunshine has it. Any of the rest of you have something written before Psalm 3? What does it say? Something before verse 1. What is that? Why is that in your Bible? In the Hebrew Bible, if you look at Psalm 3, how many verses are in your English Bibles you're looking at? How many verses does Psalm 3 have? Psalm 3 has verses 1 through 8 in English. Guess how many verses it has in Hebrew? 9. And that little part you have in your Bible and you have in your Bible. How many of you have something before verse 1 that says a Psalm of David? That is verse 1 of the Hebrew Bible. That is called a superscript. And what it is a description of the psalm. It tells us something. What does the little part say in your Bible? A Psalm of David. What else does it say? When he fled from who? Oh. And do you remember that story? Absalom's trying to kill him. David is running away. Did you know Psalm 3 is very important? Number one, it's the first psalm in the book of Psalms called a psalm. It's the first one that says a psalm. That's what it says in the little part. Secondly, right there, it's the first one that gives us this little superscript that tells us the event. Thirdly, it's the first one that tells us something about David. Of all the Psalms, David wrote the third Psalm when his son was the commander of the army and had brought the entire army hunting him. How would you like to have the whole army of Israel looking for you and you're running through the woods? Now, on the way from the airport, we went by the Philippines Special Forces training. It says the Rapid special forces. It's kind of like your, I don't know what, your military or something. Had barbed wire. It was a big base, military base. How would you like to have all of those looking for you? And coming around with their guns, poking their guns in the doors looking for you. That happened to David. And he wrote the 3rd Psalm. To tell you something, look what he says in verse 5. So can someone read verse 5? Who likes to read English and read it loud? Who wants to volunteer? Good. Wait a minute. Isaac.
Psalm 3 verse 5?
Yes.
Psalm 3 verse 5. I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me.
Now, where do you think David, who's on the run, out in the desert, slept that night? Did he sleep on the 5th floor of the Hilton Hotel? Did he sleep inside of a metal tank with guns? Where did he probably sleep? On the ground. That's where people slept back then. We know that because it talks about it in 1 Samuel. Saul is sleeping on the ground, and David walks up with his sword, and actually he gets Saul when he's using the restroom with his sword and cuts off his robe, but actually they take Saul's spear out of the ground, because when you sleep, you put your spear in the ground and lay on the ground so you're ready to use it. They slept on the ground. What did Hazel read? I laid down and slept. If you knew the whole army was chasing you, would you lay on the ground and sleep? What was their main thing they used back then to fight with? Swords, spears, and one other thing. Arrows. If you're laying on the ground with nothing protecting you, and someone shoots an arrow in the air, you can get it. How did David lay down and sleep on the ground? The rest of the verse, the last half of the verse tells you, I awoke. Why? The Lord sustained me. Now, I don't want to tell you too many things, but did you know that the scriptures give us a whole different way of looking at life than we're used to? Oh, I better not use the red. It doesn't come off. Wow. Red is more permanent. Here, I use black. Here's a quiz. How many of you have read the book of Genesis? Most of you? How many have not read the book of Genesis? Okay. It says the same thing 7 times in Genesis 1. At the end of every day of creation, it says, and the were the day. And it goes first, second, third, fourth. There's a little pattern. Does anybody know what the 2 are in this verse? The what? Evening. That's the first one. And the what? Morning. Who inspired the Bible? God. We already learned every word of the Bible is important. Does that look unusual to you? Do you think today begins tonight when it gets dark? No. When does today begin? When? The morning, right? That's not how God measures. God measures days as the evening and the morning. So basically, the biblical way of seeing days were from 6 p.m., which they call evening, through the morning, 6 a.m., up until just before the next day started at 6 p.m. So, to God, each day begins at night. What do most of us do at night? We go unconscious. Think about it. You are helpless. You are not conscious. You are not even able most of us can't even keep ourselves awake. Because Bonnie tells me, sometimes I fall asleep while I'm praying with her. You know, every night we pray. And I go, oh Lord, I think Bonnie is wonderful. And she said, it's so sweet. You fell asleep praying. I am unconscious, weak. I'm not watching anything. I'm not guarding anything. Have you ever seen someone sleeping and, you know, they have something important to them and they kind of wrap their legs around their suitcase or they're got their arm on stuff because they're going to sleep and they know they're going to be helpless, but at least if someone's trying to take their bag, they'll wake up maybe. You know, they wrap it around their leg. Have you ever seen people in the airport? They do that. They're trying to protect their stuff. Why? Because when you're sleeping, what are you? Helpless. You know what God said? Your day begins when you acknowledge that you are weak, you are helpless, you are unable to even keep yourself awake. Did you know I'm unable to even keep myself alive? If someone cut my wrist and my blood started coming out, I could not stay alive. I cannot keep myself alive. If someone choked me and I couldn't breathe, I couldn't keep myself alive. We are so weak and helpless, we can't even keep ourselves alive. And God said, I want you to start looking at life, not like it starts, your day starts when you're awake and running everything. Your day starts when you're not awake and I'm running everything. See, God wants us to, even in the way we look at time, not think we're the center of it, but that He is the center of it. That's why David said in verse 5, I lay down and I slept and I awoke. Why? Look at verse 5 that Hazel read. For the Lord is the one who was awake while I wasn't awake, and He's the one who kept everything going. There's one more thing. Psalm 3 has 4 very important things in it. Number 1 is the first psalm called the Psalm. Number 2 is the first psalm that has a superscript. See, you can still see it in red right there, because the red is not erased very well on this board. Thirdly, is the first psalm that talks about David and tells us an event in his life. But there's something else. What is at the end of verse 2 in Psalm 3? What's the very last word? What is it? What is that? Anybody know what S-E-L-A means? Yes, Selah. What does it mean? Very interesting. We're not sure what it means. Do you know what we're sure it means? It means stop. It means pause. Why? There are about 17 maybe more than that, psalms that have these in them. Some psalms have only one. Some psalms have 2 selahs. Some psalms have 3 selahs. Some psalms have 4 selahs. But every one of them, what it means is, hey, wait a minute. I just said something really important. Stop and think about it for a minute. So in Psalm 2, it says, many are those who, chapter 3, verse 2, the third psalm, the second verse, many say of me, there's no help for him from God, Selah. And he said, stop and think about what that means. David is on the run. David's own son is trying to kill him. David's own son took the whole army and they're hunting for him. So it's, a lot of people are saying, nobody's going to help David. So David said, stop and think about that. And many people are saying, God's abandoned David. Then he keeps talking. Look, the fans turn their pages on their Bibles. Now look at verse 4. Here's the next Selah. I cried to the Lord with my voice, and He heard me from His holy hill. The verse before, you, O Lord, are a shield for me. Oh, wait a minute. How did David lay down down on the ground and go to sleep in verse 5? Because God in verse 3 was what? What does it say God is in verse 3? You know what's interesting? You can sleep in the most dangerous place in the world if you know that God is a shield about you. There was someone that was in an island not far from the Philippines. You guys ever heard of John Peyton, the missionary? He went to Vanuatu, which is out in Polynesia. The French, the Spanish took the Philippines, the French took Vanuatu and conquered it like the Spanish did here. And he went, this John Peyton, to Vanuatu. You know what the people of Vanuatu were? Cannibals. They ate all the other people on the island. They paddled their boats over to the other islands, they whacked them with their spear or tomahawk, and they would cut their head off, and they would cook them and eat. Cannibals. John Patton lived in England. The British were sailing all over, and they would never go to that island because they said cannibals live there, eat. And his family were people that worked on ships, sailors, and they would come home to England and say, there is an island out in the ocean where the people eat people, and no one goes there. And John Peyton said, then how will they hear about Jesus? Wow. How come no one else thought of that? So he got on a ship, a British ship, and they came within sight of the island and said, we're not getting any closer. And they put him in a little boat and sent him paddling. And you ought to read his missionary biography. I'm sure it's in your library. His name is P-A-T-O-N. They pronounce it Patton or Peyton. I love reading missionary biographies. And so he paddles ashore with his wife, and they built a little hut, and they lived on that island for years. And the boats would come by and send armed parties. They'd paddle with their guns, and they would bring him things and be ready to shoot people. Long story, but when John finally led many of those cannibals to Christ, he learned the language, he spoke to them, preached to them, he started a church. He finally said to them, how come you never eat me? And they said, because of your guards. He said, what guards? Oh, they said, from when you arrived, and the first night you slept on shore with your wife by the little fire, we came right up to eat you. And they said, your guards never slept. They said they stood there and looked at us. Big, tall men, he said. They just looked at us. And we knew that we couldn't get near you. He said, nobody got off the boat except me and my wife. They said, don't tell us that. Your guards stood outside your door of your little hut after you. They said, in fact, when you would walk through the jungle, they walked with you. What do you think they were saying? What do you think the cannibals saw? Angels. How do I know that? Does anybody know the verse about what angels do? Have you studied Hebrews yet? Okay, Hebrews 1:14. Someone look that up for us. The last verse of Hebrews 1. Whoever finds it, other than Hazel, because she's such a good reader. Is it Hazel or Hazel? How do I say it?
Hazel.
Hazel, like Hazel. Okay. Who else is a good reader? Is Daisy a good reader? Is Elisha a good reader? You are? Okay, everybody listen. Elisha's going to read Hebrews 1:14, the last verse of chapter 1.
Hebrews 1:14. Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who inherit salvation?
Did you catch what it's talking about? What does verse 13 say? He makes, not verse 13, he makes his angels. Oh, it's not here. But it says angels are ministers, they're flames of fire somewhere. It's not here. But angels in verse 14 are sent to watch over those who are heirs of salvation. What is an heir of salvation? Someone who's saved. And there are angels that actually protect us until we accomplish everything God wants us to do. That's why David, in Psalm 3, see, Psalm 1 is the gateway. Psalm 3 has all those first, the first psalm word, the first superscript, the first message about David, the first Selah, those 4 things. But the reason David could sleep is because the angels protected him. Did you know that God actually has an angel that watches over you because you're an heir of salvation? It's amazing to become aware that until God is through with us, no one can harm us. Look back at Psalm 3, because I want you, if you haven't underlined this, in fact, I love listening to people teach the Bible to see if they point out a verse I haven't found yet. Sometimes we read the Bible and we don't find all the good ones. Look what it says in verse 5. I lay down and slept, the Lord sustained me. Verse 6, I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me. How many people were in the army of Israel? Tens of thousands. And they were all hunting for David. He's not speaking metaphorically, which means as if, it might happen. There were actually thousands of soldiers. Have you guys heard of ISIS? It's down in Mindanao. Isn't it ISIS? Whatever it is. Where the big siege is, What's that? Yeah. There are only a few hundred of them. This is tens of thousands of terrorists. And David said, I can lay on the ground and sleep because they can't get near me. Because the Lord, verse 3, is my shield. Okay, go to Psalm 9, and I've got to go a little faster, or at this rate. Do you think we're going to make it through all of them at this rate? Elisha, do you think? Okay, but you know what? Your assignment, have you guys gotten your assignment sheet yet for this class? You know what your assignment is? One of them? You have to go all the way through the whole book of Psalms. And you can start anytime you want and find how many of the Psalms have one of those superscripts before them. Okay? And you have to find how many of them talk about David. And it's really exciting. You'll get that. I'm sure they'll give it to you sooner or later if it's not buried in that packet. Okay? But look at Psalm 9, because Psalm 9 is the first psalm in the book of Psalms that has something else. What does it say up there it has? What's that word up there by Psalm 9? Can anybody read that word? What's right by 9? The what? What is that word? What is an acrostic? Anybody know? Acrostic. That's a strange word, isn't it? Okay, Psalm 9 is the first acrostic. Acrostic is like this. I'll write an acrostic. All of you, by the way, can hear me, who am Dr. Barnett, who earned, can you see what I'm doing here? What is each letter? What is this? What letter is this? Say it out loud. What letter is this? What letter is this? What letter is this? What letter is that? So I'm going through the letters of the what? English alphabet. An acrostic is a psalm that the first verse starts with Aleph. That's the first letter you grew up with. The second verse starts with bait, the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The third verse starts with gimel. The third verse has that tittle, that's daily. It has this with the little edge. That's the fourth letter. So in acrostic, the first verse, or the first letter of each verse, is the successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Very interesting. So that means, how many letters are in the Hebrew alphabet? 1, 2, 2. Now let me show you the best known acrostic in the Bible. Look at Psalm 119. Let's see how many of your Bibles point out the acrostics. Psalm 119. And look at your Bible and see if it's divided into the letters of the alphabet. So as soon as you get there, see if Psalm 119. Ayla, you see that? You have it. Are you? No, you're Sunshine. You Sunshine? Sunshine has it. Miguel, you have it? Psalm 119. How many of you have it? The letters, okay? Isaac has it. Anybody else? You see it? Check Psalm 119 in your Bible and see if the first, Arnold, do you have it? Yep. Aleph, Beit, see, Beth, Gimel, Aleph, okay, you got it? You have it yours? Yep, right there, right there, right there, see, right there, hey. Wow, Zay, Chef, Tet. So most of you have it. You have it? You have the letters in it? You have it? I have to look at this chart. I don't learn your name yet. Definitely. You have it? Good. And you. Okay. And Hazel, you have it? You have it, Elisha? Good. You have it there, Roland? Why is it like that? Because in Hebrew, poetry is not rhyming. Do you do poems that rhyme in Filipino? Where they sound like love and glove and shove and, you have the same sounds? Or do you have structural poetry? Is there poetry in Tagalog? Does it rhyme? Kind of has that. How about Korean? You have poetry? Does it rhyme? It's interesting. Korean is like Hebrew. Did you know there's two kinds of languages in the world, Oriental and Occidental? Only two forms of language. And the Oriental languages, this is really interesting. You want to see something interesting? All the languages, basically, from right here, this direction, are Oriental, and they actually write from the right side of the page to the left. And all the languages this way are like English. Did you notice that if you open a Hebrew book, if you open the Bible in Hebrew, you open what we would call the back, like that. But if you open it in English, you open the front. Hebrew goes from the right side of the page to the left. English goes from the left side of the page to the right. Languages that are from Jerusalem that way are called Oriental language, and they're primarily pictographs, symbols. Have you ever seen all those Chinese symbols? And Korean has really hard symbols, all those